Kira, after 15 years with TechVantage, we're restructuring your position, Marjorie Thompson announced, her voice laced with a barely concealed hint of satisfaction. She sat across from me in a small conference room, with Denise from HR seated beside her, both of them wearing carefully curated expressions of corporate sympathy. The company is moving in a new direction, Denise added, sliding a manila folder across the table. Your contributions have been valuable, but we're consolidating the research division under product development. I nodded thoughtfully, accepting the folder without opening it. I already knew what was inside. The standard severance package, 2 weeks' pay for every year served, 3 months of continued health coverage, and a list of career counseling resources I'd never touch. I completely understand, I replied, keeping my voice even. These decisions are never easy. Relief softened their expressions. They had clearly braced for tears, protests, maybe even anger. After all, I was a 55-year-old woman being ushered out of the tech world, an industry where youth was valued more than experience. But what they didn't know was that I had seen this coming for weeks, ever since a misdirected email chain landed in my inbox last month. We'd like you to clean out your desk by Friday, Marjorie continued, growing more confident with my calm response. We'll need your key card, company laptop, and phone before you leave. Your team will be informed this afternoon. My team? 6 brilliant engineers I had personally recruited and mentored over the years. The same team that had helped me build the distributed processing algorithm that now powered TechVantage's flagship product, AccountSphere, accounting software used by more than 40% of Fortune 500 companies. Of course, I said, standing from my chair. Is there anything else? They exchanged glances, clearly caught off guard by my calmness. Marjorie recovered first. That's all for now. Thank you for making this professional. As I walked back to my office, I passed the glass-walled conference room where the executive team was mid-meeting. Through the transparent barrier, I spotted CEO Victor Lawson gesturing animatedly at a PowerPoint titled Q3 Revenue Projections. The same Victor Lawson who, at last year's industry conference, had taken full credit for my algorithm, referring to me only as one of our research team members. I closed my office door behind me, pulled out my personal phone, and sent a single text message. It's happening. Friday is my last day. The reply came instantly. Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight to finalize details? I glanced at the calendar on my desk and smiled. It was Wednesday. Friday would be my last day at TechVantage. And Monday? Monday would be fascinating. That evening, I met Gregory Sullivan at Meridian, an upscale restaurant well away from TechVantage's campus. As CEO of Precision Systems, TechVantage's biggest competitor, Greg valued discretion. He'd booked a private dining alcove at the back, hidden behind elegant Japanese screens. They actually did it, Greg said, shaking his head after we placed our orders. I had a feeling they might, but to cut the person who created their core technology. Victor never understood what I truly built, I replied, taking a sip of water. He saw the implementation, the UI, the market potential, but the architecture behind it? That was just background tech to him. The irony of it all was almost too rich. 3 months ago, I discovered that TechVantage's legal team had never filed the patent application for my distributed processing algorithm. They'd called it an oversight when I asked. They assured me it would be taken care of right away. But something about their response didn't sit right, so I dug into the internal records. That's when I came across it, a strategy memo outlining how they planned to label the algorithm as company developed, with no specific inventor credited. They were planning to cut me loose before finalizing the patent, counting on the assumption that IP created by employees on the clock belonged to the company. But what they didn't realize was that I had already been refining the algorithm on my own time, using my own hardware. The improvements, boosting processing efficiency by 43%, weren't covered under my employment agreement. I'd quietly filed for a patent under my own name last month, complete with timestamps and development logs proving the work had been done outside company hours. The patent had gone through quickly, thanks to Greg's introduction to a top-tier IP lawyer. All the paperwork is finalized, Greg said now, sliding a folder across the table. As soon as you sign, Precision Systems officially holds exclusive licensing rights to your patent. The press release goes out Monday morning, naming you as our new Chief Innovation Officer. I scanned through the documents, even though I'd already committed the key points to memory. A seven-figure signing bonus, generous equity in precision systems, and royalties from every product powered by my algorithm. What do you think Victor's face will look like when he realizes what just happened? Greg asked, unable to mask the satisfaction in his voice. I'm more concerned about my team, I admitted. They don't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. Greg gave a nod. Already taken care of. We've got spots for all 6 of them if they're interested. Senior roles with significant pay bumps. I signed the last page and closed the folder. In a single elegant move, I had locked in my future, safeguarded my team, and claimed proper credit for my work. To new beginnings, Greg said, lifting his glass. And to owning your own value, I replied, tapping my glass against his. Thursday and Friday blurred past in a rush of exit interviews, knowledge handoffs, and farewells to coworkers. I kept my composure the entire time, even as whispers spread across the office. Administrative assistants gave me quiet, sympathetic nods in the corridors. Junior developers approached hesitantly, asking if I'd be willing to leave them LinkedIn recommendations. I made sure to document everything in detail. Every password, every project, every process, knowing full well TechVantage would soon realize just how much they'd lost. Leaving behind those transition notes wasn't generosity. It was insurance. Proof that I had acted in good faith while the company had not. During my final exit interview Friday afternoon, Denise from HR moved through the checklist with robotic precision. You understand that all intellectual property developed during your employment remains the property of TechVantage, she stated, sliding a non-disclosure agreement across the table. Of course, I answered smoothly. Anything developed within the scope of my employment, using company resources during company time. I gave those qualifiers just the slightest emphasis, but Denise was too focused on ticking boxes to notice. And you confirm you have no copies of proprietary company information? She asked. I've taken nothing that belongs to TechVantage, I said truthfully. The patent was mine after all. Back at my desk, I began packing up the personal items that marked 15 years of my life: family photos, a string of conference badges from industry events, and the coffee mug my team gave me last Christmas. Marjorie appeared in the doorway, leaning there with a forced air of casualness. Just wanted to make sure everything's all set for your departure, she said, eyes on the box as I placed each item inside. Crystal clear, I answered, wrapping a small award I'd earned for the very algorithm now central to my next chapter in soft tissue paper. The irony didn't escape me. You know, Kira, these restructuring decisions. They're never personal, Marjorie went on. Victor thinks the company needs to head in a more, youthful direction. I looked up and met her eyes directly. I completely understand. Business is business. There was something in my tone that made her hesitate. Uncertainty flickered across her face for a second, but she brushed it off. What threat could a soon-to-be unemployed 55-year-old woman really pose? Will you be taking some time off? She asked, her tone carrying a hollow attempt at concern. Actually, I've already got something lined up, I said. I start Monday. Oh. Surprise broke through her carefully composed expression. That's fast. Anything interesting? I smiled. Very. A leadership position. I'm really looking forward to it. She nodded, clearly already moving on in her mind. Well, good luck with that. As I walked out of TechVantage's sleek glass headquarters for the last time, key cards turned in, box in hand, I paused for one final look. 15 years of my career had played out inside those walls. Up on the top floor, the executive conference room was lit up for an evening session. No doubt they were already planning how to divide my responsibilities among younger, cheaper, less experienced replacements. What they didn't realize was that in under 72 hours, that very conference room would be the site of a full-blown emergency crisis meeting. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. I dressed with intention, slipping into the charcoal suit I had bought specifically for this occasion, a statement outfit for a statement day. Right on schedule at 7:30 a.m., the Precision Systems town car pulled up to take me to their headquarters, where I was set to begin my new role as Chief Innovation Officer. The press release went out at 7. Greg informed me as I settled into my new corner office, complete with sweeping floor-to-ceiling windows. Industry newsletters are already picking it up. Our comms team is tracking reactions. The announcement had been executed with surgical precision. Precision Systems acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary processing algorithm, welcomes creator Dr. Kira Jennings as Chief Innovation Officer. It highlighted my background, made clear I was the sole inventor of the patented technology, and laid out how the algorithm would be central to Precision Systems' next-generation products. Most critically, it made one thing unmistakable: any company currently using the algorithm would now have to license it through Precision Systems. At exactly 9:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with the first message from one of my former team members at TechVantage. "Complete chaos here. What did you do?" It was Miguel, my lead developer. I smiled and typed back, "Check your personal email, offers are waiting for all 6 of you." Meanwhile, 8 miles away at TechVantage HQ, the usual Monday morning executive meeting was unraveling in real time. According to Miguel's stream of updates throughout the day, Victor had arrived to find the general counsel and CFO already at his door, pale and panicked. The industry announcement had hit inboxes simultaneously, triggering an immediate alarm. By 9:30 a.m., what should have been a standard weekly briefing had devolved into a full-blown crisis meeting. Board members were dialing in from all over. Legal was scrambling, combing through my employment contract and any documentation tied to the algorithm's development. "They're pulling every file with your name on it," Miguel reported. "Someone just rolled in all the servers from the research division for the tech team to comb through." I could envision the scene perfectly: Victor pacing the executive conference room, barking questions at Marjorie and the legal team, trying to piece together how they'd let this slip through their fingers. By now the stock market would be reacting. Investors hated instability, and today's announcement had delivered it in spades. At 10:45 a.m., an email arrived from Victor himself. The desperation practically radiated from the screen. "Kira, there appears to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience to discuss." I forwarded it to Precision Systems' legal team without replying. By noon the industry was buzzing. TechVantage stock had already dropped 7% since market open. In contrast, Precision Systems had jumped 12%. 3 major tech publications had reached out to schedule interviews with me about the strategic bombshell that had just hit the accounting software sector. "How are you feeling?" Greg asked, stopping by my office as I settled in. "Validated," I answered truthfully. 15 years of others claiming credit for my work, of being reminded to be thankful just to have a seat at the table, and now, finally, recognition. My new executive assistant appeared at the doorway. "Dr. Jennings, the development team is ready for you in the main conference room. Also..." She hesitated. "TechVantage CEO has called 4 times in the past hour. Please let him know I'm in meetings for the rest of the day," I said evenly. "Our legal team will be in touch later this week to discuss licensing terms." As I walked toward my first meeting as Chief Innovation Officer, my phone buzzed again with a fresh update from Miguel. "Board just called emergency session. Victor looks like he's about to explode. P.S. My team and I accept your offer. When can we start?" By Tuesday morning, the full magnitude of my departure had become undeniable at TechVantage. Their flagship product, AccountSphere, depended entirely on my algorithm to manage the vast datasets that gave it a competitive advantage. Without the rights to use my patent, they were left with 2 unpleasant options: negotiate with Precision Systems or start from the ground up, an undertaking that would demand years of development and cost them millions. Victor's called an all-hands meeting for 2 p.m., Miguel texted. It was his final day at TechVantage. He and the rest of my former team were officially joining Precision Systems the following Monday. "Rumor is they're going to try to sue you." I forwarded the message to our legal department. Their reply came swiftly: "Let them try. Your documentation is airtight, timestamps, development logs, proof of personal equipment use. We've anticipated this." Meanwhile, I was transitioning into my new role with surprising ease. The respect I received at Precision Systems was a stark and refreshing change from my later years at TechVantage. When I spoke, people listened. My ideas weren't hijacked by male colleagues and paraded as their own. My experience and, yes, my age were seen as strengths, not drawbacks. "The engineering team is already implementing your efficiency enhancements," Greg mentioned during our afternoon briefing. "Initial testing shows a 51% performance increase, better than we expected." I had a few refinements I never shared with TechVantage, I told him. Once I realized they planned to push me out, I didn't see any reason to hand over my best work. Their loss, our gain, Greg said with a satisfied smile. By the way, we got our first licensing inquiry this morning. Not from TechVantage, they're still in denial, but from Dataflow Systems. They don't want to get caught in the crossfire. At 3:30 p.m., another message came in from Miguel, a rundown of Victor's all-hands meeting. The CEO had done his best to appear confident, reassuring employees that TechVantage would vigorously defend our proprietary technology. The tension in the room was undeniable. Several employees had already updated their LinkedIn profiles, sensing the company's instability. Marjorie looked like she might pass out when someone bluntly asked if they had failed to secure the patent, as Miguel recalled. Victor quickly ended the question session after that. By Wednesday, the fallout in the industry was escalating. 2 major clients reached out to Precision Systems about potentially switching from AccountSphere, worried that TechVantage might struggle to maintain the product without the algorithm's creator. Our stock had risen another 8%, while TechVantage continued its downward spiral. I got a call from Denise in HR, the same woman who had handed me my severance package just days before. "Kira," she began, her tone carefully neutral. "I'm calling to talk about the situation with your patent. There seems to be some confusion regarding ownership rights." "I don't believe there's any confusion," I responded calmly. "My employment contract clearly states that any intellectual property developed on my own time and with my own resources remains mine. The patent documentation reflects this." "Victor was hoping you might consider coming in to discuss options," she said. "Any discussions should go through Precision Systems' legal department from now on," I replied. "I'm sure they'd be happy to arrange a meeting to discuss licensing terms." The silence on the other end of the line was telling. After a long pause, Denise finally sighed. "I'll pass that along." Later that day, I gave my first formal presentation to the Precision Systems Board of Directors, showcasing our technology roadmap with my algorithm at the forefront. As I stood confidently at the head of the table, not hidden in the back like at TechVantage, I caught Greg's approving nod. By Friday, just 1 week after I'd walked out of TechVantage for the last time, the company was in full crisis mode. Their stock had dropped 23% from Monday's opening bell, leading to worried calls from major investors. Industry analysts were publishing speculative articles with titles like "Can TechVantage survive the algorithm crisis?" and "How one strategic mistake could cost a tech giant everything." Through my industry connections, I found out that Victor had finally admitted to the board how serious things had gotten. TechVantage would have to either license my algorithm from Precision Systems, likely at steep rates that would hit their profit margins hard, or completely rebuild AccountSphere without using any technology covered by my patent. "They've started interviewing for a new development team," Miguel told me during our Friday video call, where we also talked about his upcoming move to Precision Systems. "Victor says they can recreate the functionality in 6 months." I couldn't help but laugh. The original algorithm took me 3 years to perfect, and that was with a deep understanding of the problem. "Exactly," Miguel agreed. "No one's buying that timeline, especially after your team all resigned at the same time." "The knowledge drain is huge," I added. Later that day, TechVantage's lawyers reached out to Precision Systems to start talks about licensing my algorithm. Following our strategy, our legal team responded with terms that were technically fair but strategically harsh: 3 times the standard licensing fee, plus a public acknowledgement of my role as the creator. "They'll balk at the acknowledgement more than the cost," Greg predicted as we reviewed the response in his office. "Victor's ego won't let him admit he forced out the person who created their core technology." "Then they'll have to rebuild," I said. "And every day they spend trying to recreate my work is another day we extend our lead in the market." The following Monday morning, just 10 days after my abrupt departure, I led my first meeting with my newly formed innovation team, which included Miguel and 5 other engineers from TechVantage. The energy in the room was electric as we planned the next evolution of my algorithm. "This is how development meetings should be," commented Anita, one of my former team members. "At TechVantage, we spent so much time explaining basic concepts to executives who never really listened. That's the difference between being valued and being seen as replaceable," I responded. "Here, your expertise is recognized." As we wrapped up the productive meeting, my assistant appeared at the door. "Dr. Jennings, there's been a major development with TechVantage. Their board just announced an emergency leadership change. Victor Lawson is stepping down effective immediately." The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, industry outlets were reporting that TechVantage's board had lost confidence in Victor's leadership due to the patent mismanagement that had jeopardized their flagship product. Marjorie Thompson was also out, along with the head of legal who had failed to secure the patent properly. Later that evening, I received an unexpected email from Richard Donovan, the new interim CEO of TechVantage. Unlike Victor's frantic message from the week before, this one was direct and respectful. Dr. Jennings, congratulations on your new position. I've been brought in to help TechVantage navigate the current situation. I'd like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology. We're prepared to publicly acknowledge your contributions and make appropriate amends for the oversights of the previous management. Would you be available to meet next week? I forwarded the email to Greg with a brief note. Phase 1 complete. His reply was swift. Beautifully executed. The board is celebrating your first major victory for Precision Systems. Looks like TechVantage is finally learning a costly lesson about valuing innovation and innovators. 3 months after my departure from TechVantage, I sat on stage at the National Technology Innovation Conference, preparing to deliver the keynote address. The audience was full of industry leaders, tech journalists, and aspiring developers, many of whom were now familiar with my story. And now, I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, the conference organizer announced. Dr. Kira Jennings, Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems and creator of the distributed processing algorithm that has revolutionized data handling across multiple industries. The applause was overwhelming as I made my way to the podium. It was incredible to think how much could change in just a few months. The previous year, I had attended this same conference as part of the TechVantage team, sitting at the back while Victor presented about his company's innovations. Thank you, I began, scanning the focused faces in the crowd. Today, I want to talk about innovation ownership and the importance of properly valuing intellectual contributions, no matter where they originate. My presentation covered the technical details of my algorithm, but I also highlighted broader issues like recognition and respect within the tech industry. Without directly referring to TechVantage, I stressed the need for companies to protect their innovators, rather than treating them as expendable assets. Later, during the reception, several young female engineers approached me, asking for advice and guidance. One of them, just under 30, shared, "Your story changed the way I document my work. I've started keeping detailed logs of my development process during my own time." Smart, I responded. Your innovations deserve protection. As the evening drew to a close, I checked my phone and saw an industry news alert. TechVantage had officially announced the licensing agreement with Precision Systems, publicly acknowledging me as the creator of the algorithm. Their stock had stabilized, but it was still considerably lower than it had been before I left. 1 year to the day after I'd been told to pack up my desk, I sat in my spacious office at Precision Systems, reviewing the quarterly innovation report. Under my leadership, the company had launched 3 groundbreaking products based on my algorithm, capturing significant market share from TechVantage and other competitors. A knock on my door interrupted my work. Greg walked in holding a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "Happy anniversary," he said, setting the glasses down on my desk. "The board asked me to share the news with you personally before it goes public. Precision Systems has officially surpassed TechVantage in market valuation for the first time in company history." I smiled, not out of triumph but with quiet satisfaction. That's what happens when you properly value innovation. As Greg poured the champagne, my assistant handed me a sleek envelope. Inside was an invitation to speak at Women in Technology's annual leadership summit. The topic? Owning your intellectual value. How proper documentation changed an industry, I read aloud. "You've become something of an icon," Greg remarked, noticing the invitation. The story about the executive who didn't realize the value of what she had until it was gone has turned into a cautionary tale in corporate boardrooms. Richard Donovan, who had stayed on as TechVantage CEO after the crisis, had implemented major changes in how the company recognized and rewarded innovation. Their new policies on intellectual property protection and inventor recognition were reportedly modeled after the program I'd established at Precision Systems. "It was never about revenge," I said, raising my glass in a toast. "It was about recognition," I continued. "About showing the industry that innovation isn't anonymous. It comes from real people who deserve real credit. To proper recognition, Greg agreed, clinking his glass against mine. As the afternoon sun poured through my office windows, I reflected on my journey. At 56, I had finally found what had eluded me for so long. Not just success but acknowledgement. My name was now permanently tied to the algorithm that had transformed an industry, exactly where it belonged.